Hey there. This is Kat. I love this. We are going to be talking about sex today, and I have a very special guest. And when I was talking to her, I was like, we talked about some things we could talk about because as an entrepreneur, and sometimes as a serial entrepreneur, if you have multiple businesses, or even if you're distracted and you are on boards, and there's so many things that entrepreneurs play a role in. So, Dr. April is going to talk to us and have conversations about how stress and how running a business can affect your mental health, your sex life, so many things. So I'm super, super excited to have Dr. April Brown join me. Let me bring her on.
Oh,
Hi.
welcome. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm trying to get the banners at work. Here we go. Okay, so so just before we get started in our conversation that I'm super excited about and absolutely love, um, Dr. Can I just say call you Dr. April?
That's fine.
Okay. Can you give us a little background about who you are, what you do, and
Okay.
some of the wonderful things you're doing?
Yes, yes. So I am a therapist, a doctor of intimacy, a sex therapist, and a mental health therapist here in Florida. I actually started off way back when in the business of CPA and in the business of marketing and finance, and then through a lot of spiritual journey, found myself in the field of counseling and found myself working with children. And then I started to progress and work with couples. And then
Okay.
also starting to have my own business, which has led me down this road of intimacy, and I've written books about it. Intimacy is intimacy you see, and it's that connection. And there's so many different forms of intimacy, but
Yep.
also how, even as myself, as a business owner, how it impacts our intimate with our partner, our business people, our children, our sex life, intimacy with ourselves. So I'm excited about talking about this subject.
Okay. Now, you also have a few accolades that I'm just going to point out because you probably are not going to point them out. So I am. I'm just going to point them out. So you also host a show, right?
Yes, yes, a
And
bit of
it's bringing back intimacy.
bringing
Intim-
intimacy back.
yeah, okay. That's my dyslexic kicking in there. So where can people find that? What is that, and where can people find that?
So they can find it on all the YouTube, Spotify, and I actually do it live every Thursday at 3 p.m.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, awesome. Okay. And that is your podcast slash show that you run, right?
yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that you run into or you're hearing from entrepreneurs as what happens when these things happen, right? Because I for one can attest to, you know, first off, I started my business from the ground up, right? There's a lot of stress involved in that because you are the only person that's running the show. So that means you wear many hats and quite possibly working a lot of hours. And so you make lots of sacrifices. And sometimes those sacrifices affect other people around you, or quite frankly, your own mental and physical health, right?
Right.
Because so can you just kind of touch base on, you know, are you hearing a lot of this? Are you working with a lot of entrepreneurs that are dealing with things like this?
Right. So a lot of the work that I do, especially in working with couples, is with entrepreneurs. And then when I think about being an entrepreneur, which I am myself, every business is like a baby. You know what I'm saying? And then
Mhm.
in the beginning, when you're just starting off, it's like having that baby who is, I don't know, 6 months old, always waking you up, crying, and all that kind of stuff. You don't
Yeah.
get much sleep. Okay, so I run 4 businesses. Okay,
Mhm.
and then as the business starts to mature, then you start to mature and being able to break away. But in the beginning, and many people sometimes don't even get to run a business long enough
Yep.
to understand and enjoy the pleasures of it. But when you run the business, you're having, like you said, being the marketing person, you're having to lead the product. You are sometimes even having to be yourself, your boss. It gets into a lot of things. So you don't have much energy for anything else. Or your mind is always running. And
Yep.
one thing about being truly intimate, and this is even intimate with yourself, is to be fully present.
Yep.
It is really important as a business owner to take time to take care of yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
And being fully present, just so that we're clear on this, Dr. April, because I know that entrepreneurs and solopreneurs are really bad about this, about multitasking
right,
and doing other things when you're. So let's say that I was part of a workshop and I had my Zoom, and then I also was supposed to be responding to a partner or whatever. I'm not present. I'm on
right,
a workshop.
right. You're multitasking. And do you know that there's some people who even try to multitask when they're having sex?
Yes, I can imagine. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah, yes. And yeah, and that's what I mean in the sense of not being fully present,
yeah.
not
Be-
being connected to all
Yep.
your senses.
Yep. And I get that because like I'll use it. I'm the guinea pig, right? Because I nobody's telling me their intimate stories.
Yes,
So is and with my partner, Jeff, like if we're having a conversation, right?
right.
And he's telling me things, let's say about his son or his day or whatever, and I'm focused somewhere else and I do, okay, that's
Yeah,
not being present.
that's not being present. Or even, and I had to learn this early in life, when my kid was younger and we had dinner,
Yep.
and then we were eating dinner, but my phone goes off,
Yep.
and I'm like, okay, I got to take care of that. I'm not being fully present with my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, we don't have much time.
Yep.
But the time we do take off, whether it's an hour for dinner, we shut the phone off. And I don't know what every time, people shut the phone off, but they should shut it off. So at nighttime, they can be fully with their partner.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Dr. April. So if you commit to that yourself,
Yes.
now shouldn't you also request that your partner, significant other, or husband or wife also commit to that? Because there are times when I do commit to turning things off. Okay.
Right.
And then let's say that we sit by a bonfire or something,
Right.
and then they're on their phone.
Right. Yeah.
And then they say, well, you're on your computer all the time. So it's okay for me to be on my phone when I have a break.
Right. Right. And so I was just working with a couple just now. So instead of saying like your partner's on their phone and saying you, it's best for you to say I.
Uh huh.
Hey, honey, I feel like this time here I only have for you right now. And I feel like we're not connecting.
I love that. Look at that.
Instead of saying, you get your ass off the phone. Oh, sorry.
You don't have to apologize. That's okay. Because I'm sure that's what some women would probably say.
Right. It's how you bring something to the table.
Yes. Yes. I
Yes.
agree.
Yes.
I
And
agree.
even understand that if you have a bright idea and you're thinking, I'm going to go into business for myself,
Yep.
a business is a baby, guys.
Yep. Okay. Let's talk about intimacy. Okay.
Yes.
Because I agree with you that entrepreneurs are always multitasking. They're always thinking of something. And, I hate to say it, but yeah, this has happened to me. But like you get so distracted, you're so focused that if your significant other or partner or whoever it is that's in your world want to be intimate and you're thinking, oh, this is such a bad time, I really want to finish this project, right?
Right.
And you're not giving in, or you're not playing true to natural ways that people get intimate, right?
Right. Right.
And you're putting it off, and then you're going to make it uncomfortable because then it's going to be like you almost want it planned.
Right.
Is that correct?
Right.
Is that where we're going? Okay. So how do you deal with people that are so focused and so driven that they don't take time for intimacy, which should be an organic and not so much a pre-planned kind of thing?
Right. Well, number one, if your partner wants to be intimate and you're so busy and you just say no, 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 I'm busy, I got this, it leads to a lot of rejection. And then rejection leads to resentment.
Right.
Right. So we don't want to do that. Okay. Then we don't want to say, hey, well, I don't want to, but I'm just going to lay there and let my partner do whatever. My mind's going to be elsewhere. Men can feel that. Or
Oh yeah.
if it's a non, male and female relationship, your partner can feel that.
Yeah.
They can feel when you're not there. And
Yeah.
then it also, that leads to damage, because if you're laying there and your partner's doing whatever, but you've already left the scene and you come back into your body, it doesn't feel good.
Right. Right.
Right. Right.
Yes. Yes.
So let's not even do that either. So what it means sometimes is, if you're a busy person, and I know we don't like to plan things about intimacy, but if you plan everything else on your calendar, then you need to plan time to be intimate with your partner. And that doesn't necessarily always mean sex. Intimacy
Yep.
can be holding hands, eating ice cream together, but you put it on your calendar.
Yep. Yep. Or just walking around naked.
Yes, or taking a shower together.
Yeah.
You know how lovely that is to take a shower together?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, sometimes that's all it takes, but it's making your partner feel valued.
Yep. And included. And included.
And included, yes.
Yes. Yes.
So that's really important. But if you're like starting to get intimate and your mind wanders, it starts to go to XYZ.
Yeah.
Then I need for you to use your 5 senses and bring it back.
Ooh, I love this. What are they?
So find 5 things on your partner's body that you can touch. Yes. 4 things that you can see on his body or her body.
Okay.
3 things you can smell. 2 things you can taste. 1 thing you can hear. Just use your 5 senses to bring yourself back. It's called mindfulness. So if your mind is going somewhere, and this is whether you're washing dishes or, giving him a massage, or he's giving you a massage, bring your 5 senses. Use your 5 senses to bring you back.
I love that. That's good advice. I love that.
Yes.
That is
and
very
if there's men out there that are listening, women love for you to talk through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. And if it's a person who has a very creative mind, use some storytelling. Use storytelling. Talk about a story or what your fantasies or whatever. That help keeps a person in the room.
Yes.
Yes.
That is fantastic. Okay. So do you try things, or do you suggest things like, I get the appointment setting, because if you're not being intimate, you damn straight, you better set an appointment, because you don't want that to go to 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And then you look back at the year and you say, oh my God, we were not intimate, but 1 time or 2 times, whatever the number is, right? Because that would not be a good relationship, and not a good investment in your relationship,
Right.
But would you also recommend other things that people can do to help and encourage the intimacy, like, adult games?
There's tons of different adult games. And before I said that, even in the sense of the 5 senses, using different aromas, also help. Even in the sense of, you were just saying 1 or 2 times a year, having a conversation.
Yeah.
Many people don't even have a conversation. Well, how often do you feel like we should be having sex?
Mm-hmm.
Because then that can lower that pressure on you. You're thinking maybe he wants it every 2 days, and maybe that's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just because a man touches you, or just because he has a hard on, doesn't mean that he really wants sex. But every time women think, oh my gosh, she wants sex and I'm just too busy for that, and yada, yada, yada.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. Well, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. Third thing, like you were saying, is playing games.
Yep.
Are really helpful. Yeah. Even if it's a competitive game of some sort.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those things add spice.
Right. Right. And I can see the value in those, because again, for those people that have bad communication skills, because there's a lot of us out there that are afraid to talk about it, or afraid to question your partner or bring it up.
Right.
those are probably very delicate ways of trying to, bring that back, right? In a very kind of not so harsh way, you know.
Right,
Is
right. So if you're out there listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I really have been neglecting my partner, right?
yeah,
While you're watching this, why don't you go ahead and just send him or her a sexy little text? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Whether it's like, oh my gosh, I just love how your butt was in those pants this morning. You just never know where it's going to lead. Yeah. But
no.
that means, hey, I'm thinking about you. Yeah.
Right, right. And you know what? That's funny because you bring up something that someone else had mentioned one time before, about having better communication with your partner. They suggested that you compliment your partner before you say anything,
Right.
regardless what it is. Even if it's, could you please wash the dishes? They said, if you compliment them, you will see that what you're asking goes so much further.
Right. It's called basic in business, it's called sandwiching it. I mean, that's what the term, you put some
Yep,
bread to it. Yes.
yep,
Yes.
yes, yes,
Yes. Hey,
yeah,
honey. Oh my gosh, you just look so good. Is there any way possible that you can just, take the kid to the store? You
yep,
just, yeah, you compliment. You put some
yeah.
meat, bread.
Yes. And I feel like, and just my 2 cents, I feel like we don't compliment each other enough. I feel like people don't compliment people enough. I feel like that we definitely attack people if they aren't doing something right or they're doing something wrong, but we don't use the compliment enough. And I think the compliment really is a nice card to use regardless,
Right,
whatever the case may be, whether it's a client, it's an intimate partner, whomever, you
right,
know.
right. Intimacy and physical intimacy, they need that emotional
Yep,
connection. Men
exactly.
are very visual. They're like, they see boobs and breasts and butt and they get all excited. Women, we get excited when we feel connected. That emotional piece is there.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
what that's, all juice is flowing.
Right, right. And I think that's the other thing too, is men can turn things on and off. Women cannot, and I don't think they understand. They don't understand. I don't think they ever will understand that women are, we are very emotional, so we need right? We need the five
Right,
senses. We need the to hear, we need to feel it, we need to
right,
smell it, you know?
right, definitely. And if you have a hard time turning things off, and you're driving to and from work, when you're driving from work, have a conversation with yourself. Let it all out. Vent all that stuff out. So when you can get home, you can be fully present.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree. Okay. So let's let's see. And if anybody who is watching, if you have any questions, please reach out. And now's the time to ask those questions that you're really looking to find the answer to. Okay, so how do we hold each other accountable, Dr. April? Let's say that it's me and my partner. How do we hold each other accountable so that we both reach the same goal we both want, right?
Right,
And their goal might be a little more higher than the other because somebody always wants more than the other, right? Isn't
right,
that how it works?
right. Well, one good thing is, as an entrepreneur, we all have different stressors.
Yep.
And if there's a time period in your month or a time period that is much more stressful, have that conversation with your partner. Hey, at the end of the month, I have payroll to do. I have a variety of things, so I'm, crazy those next 2 days, but then after that, game on. You and I are just, yeah,
Yep.
have that conversation with your partner. Sometimes it's also good to get away.
Yes.
Many entrepreneurs sometimes don't have someone underneath them to help out.
Yep.
Yeah, because we're like, I don't want to tell anybody what's going on. No. I want to do it all. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. But if you're at that stage in your business, and this is not when your business is a baby, but when your business is able to have a babysitter,
Right.
let's put it that way.
Yep. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Just like a kid,
Yep.
it's okay for you to step away.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I agree. I think like a lot of the things that I ran into was always in the beginning of starting a business because I was fully focused on the business and put a lot of time and energy and focus in it, that a lot of things that needed my attention went to the wayside, like
Right.
my health, like my, managing my what I ate and my exercise and, intimacy. Any of that stuff goes to the wayside because you're super, super zoned in and focused on your business and running it.
Right. And Kat, you made a point that I haven't really talked about that's super critical. You have to also have self intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And self intimacy means that you're taking care of your stress. You're going to your doctor. You're taking care of your mental health. Because if you don't feel sexy and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even stand myself, how do you think your partner's going to feel?
I agree, because they can breathe and feel that.
Right, right. So it's so important for you to have self intimacy. And many females out there have not really explored their whole body.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have this concept that a man is supposed to know how to please us, or a woman is supposed to know. You're supposed to know how to please yourself.
Yep.
So you can share it with your partner. You know what I'm saying? So if
Mm-hmm.
you're uncomfortable looking at your breasts, touching your private parts, I need for you to get comfortable with that.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
that it does make a difference, and it is extremely important because, at the end of the day, your personal health, and that's mental, physical, and then whatever other
Social,
part of it.
everything. Yeah.
Yes. It's all, you cannot function if all of that is not aligned or in top form. You can't be the best that you can be if you don't like yourself.
Right.
You can't be the best that you can be if you're uncomfortable looking at yourself.
Right.
It,
Right.
it it all has a parlay into its own effect.
Right. Because as a business owner, the main product is you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so you really have to believe in you,
Yes, I agree.
which is
And
acceptance.
yep. And I'm a big believer that every relationship deserves 100% effort, 100%. So not, 50, not, 20, 100%. That's your business relationship deserves 100%. That's your partnership, whether it's a husband, wife, partner, whoever, that deserves 100%. Or whether it's your children, that's the same
Right.
thing, right? This is the same thing. Or maybe you're caring for a mother or father,
Right.
same thing. Is if you can't emotionally, physically, or whatever the case may be, can manage yourself, you can't manage someone else. It's just
Exactly.
not going to happen.
Exactly. And you have to show up for yourself and
Yes.
not talk trash about yourself, because
Right.
you're going to be with you for the rest of your life. So
Exactly.
have that true intimate moment with yourself, so you
And
can bring that authentic self to your partner and to your children and family and friends.
absolutely. Okay. So are there some things that you offer that people can participate in?
Oh, yes, a variety of things. So, one thing, as I've been talking about intimacy, I do have a series of improving intimacy books on Amazon. That
Okay.
is not only, I've one specifically about sex, but one that's also about how you can have an intimate connection with your children, with your community, and also one with the business world. So that's
Okay.
one aspect. The other aspect is I provide online services for people for couples and for people to learn how to be intimate with their partner and with themselves. And then third thing is I have a business called Vacation Counseling, which is it's my retreat business.
Okay.
Which means is we work at one couple at a time, where you can go someplace. And we just came back from Costa Rica, but I do this also in Florida, where we learn how to use all forms of intimacy in the sense of a beautiful environment. You work on yourself, your partner, that emotional piece. Yes, you learn how to have fun and be intimate, because if you just work and don't enjoy it, what's
Yep.
the point?
I agree. So how do you deal with maybe one person understands and knows and accepts and kind of knows that there's an issue, and then the other person doesn't. Like, I'm sure this happens a lot. I'm sure you hear it a lot.
Right, right, right. And so when I'm bringing a couple together, my job is not to fix their problem, but my job is to help them see each other, you
Okay.
know? And when you
Yep.
see another person, believe, when you learn how to truly see them for who they are, not
Yep.
based on your own trauma or whatever, then you have that information to make a decision. You know, there are some people who work is everything, and that's what their value is.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Where others, then, they believe in a more of a balance. Yeah. And it's up to you what you decide to do with that information.
Okay. And that's good info. And then is there are there signs that you can give people that kind of give them an indicator that they're neglecting some things? Are there signs? Because here's the other thing is, nobody's going to raise their hand and say, hey,
Right.
that's me, so there should be, I'm sure there's signs and indicators for people to understand and know, okay, it's time for you to work on some of your intimacy or your, mental health or whatever.
Right, right. So on self, if you're waking up extremely tired, you have no energy, you don't even want to go to work, or you're working, but you don't even remember, godly, I don't even remember being in that appointment. I've just been so busy going, or your heart is always racing.
Mm-hmm.
Those are signs that you have totally neglected yourself.
Yeah.
That you need to take some time, reflect back, maybe even start doing some meditation just to learn how to calm down.
Yep.
Yep. If you're in a relationship and you feel like, my partner is getting disconnected, or even I've seen people they started out very close in the bed and then they're moving far away. Yeah. Or your partner says, or your kids say to you, you're never around. And you're like, well, I'm always around. I'm doing everything. I'm
Right.
cleaning the house. I'm doing this. And let me see this other thing that's really important. People will treat you the way you treat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put everybody else's needs before yours, so you're last and you put everybody else, then there's this big discrepancy here. Then you're upset. Why isn't no one else cleaning the house doing this? Because people treat you the way you treat yourself.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That's
So start to love yourself just as much as you love your kids, your partner. Show up.
yeah. And that's great advice. The other thing I was going to bring up was the fact that I had it a minute ago and then it went away. uh, uh, okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's
it,
okay. Let me just say something else, and maybe that's a help. It's
okay.
okay when you're being intimate that it should look like play. There's not this
Mhm.
pressure to perform.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, enjoy it just as play, and everything else will happen. And I know as women, as our bodies change,
Yep.
we have to realize that. And men, that sometimes it takes us longer. Yeah,
Yeah.
to warm up the woman's body, it takes about 20 minutes to warm up a woman's body, at
You,
least.
you hear that? You hear that out there? And now you did remind me on what two things I wanted to say. So the first thing is I love the idea about getting away, because if you are so distracted and focused on work, I think getting away helps you release yourself of trying to work, especially if you don't take a laptop or anything, and
Right,
you just get away. It doesn't have to be a whole weekend or a week. It could be one night,
right, exactly.
and you just take it and make it extra extra special, just like when you first met or something like that. You
Right,
just make it exciting and
right,
special. I think that's a great idea. The other thing I was going to mention is exactly what you just mentioned, is we get older, our bodies change,
right,
and it's how you mentally deal with that, because we're not all going to be young and tight asses, right?
right, exactly.
And non-saggy boobs or
Yes. Yeah.
so you have to be comfortable with yourself. And I meditate a lot. I do a lot of things to help myself because I have to be okay with how I'm evolving and becoming as a person, and also how I associate that with my partner, because I agree with you 100%. If you don't feel comfortable and secure, you're always going to have that don't touch me, or that
Right.
rejection kind of look, right? Like,
Right.
you know, you're going to have that, and you shouldn't have that, because that is something that you yourself have to be comfortable with, right? And do the things to make yourself comfortable. I will tell you, Dr. April, I went to Mexico this past year, and I saw all kinds of women, all kinds of bodies, skinny,
Right.
fat, thin, you know, thick, chubby,
Yes.
whatever, all of them. And you know what? The one takeaway I took from that trip was how confident
Comfortable and comfortable they
every
were. Yes.
woman was.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Every one of them, even if they were overweight or if they were thick or whatever, the confidence was so alluring, and you can smell it and feel it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And they appreciated themselves and they weren't criticizing themselves and stuff. Yes.
They
One other
weren't.
thing I was thinking about with entrepreneurs is not to do work in your bedroom.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Yes, yes, yes. Stop bringing those files in the bed or whatever the case may be. Yes, keep that bedroom sacred so it seems like play. Because
Yes.
if you do work all the time in the bedroom, it doesn't feel like a getaway or play, or you know what I
No,
mean?
no, you're not making it extra special. And I'm glad you said that, because um, that is such a great point. Because when you got to save certain places in your home for very, your intimate or your escape, like some people have a meditation room and they don't
Right,
do work there,
right.
or an exercise room and we don't do work there. you know so
Yes,
I agree, I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, definitely. Yes. And especially, and you start this off young. Remember, I said that businesses are like babies. So you start this off in the beginning.
Okay, I do
Right?
have two questions for you. Two
Yes.
questions. Okay, because I saw this on Sex in the City, but I also know that it does happen. What about the people that have separate rooms?
Okay. So sometimes, and usually that's as you get older, usually, but
Mhm.
not doesn't always. So if you have separate rooms and because of whether if someone snores or whatever,
Snoring. Yep.
yes, yes. Um, and it's already established, then you need to definitely make sure you set time aside to when are we going to connect?
Yeah.
How is this going to work?
Okay. So there
Yes,
has to be a conversation.
it has to be a conversation. But I do want to say if you think like, hey, I'm so upset, I'm leaving the bedroom, those things cause resentment.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, many couples are in my office because one person has left the bedroom because of X, Y, or Z. Yeah, and then it takes time to get back in the bedroom, then feeling uncomfortable. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad that we were talking about this. And then the other question is, and this is a parlay from like Sex in a City, where she had an apartment that she went to. And I've heard this on trades and news where couples have separate living and then have their combined living.
Right, right. And I've seen it. I've seen it work, especially when couples are older and they come back together and they have, but they have their own separate space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they feel like, hey, I don't want to, maybe they've been hurt through another divorce or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. But
So go
it,
ahead.
it can work if you guys have the communication about it and what does that actually mean?
Okay. So when people are in these situations, nobody should be judging them, and nobody should be saying that's good or bad, right? Because every situation is very individual to each person. And I want to make sure we talk about this, because I'm sure there's people out there where this situation applies to
Right.
them and it happens, and either they're used to it or that's the way they want it. But that doesn't mean it's good or bad.
Right.
You know?
It's remember I said like in my couples counseling, I'm not trying to fix their problem. I'm
Right.
trying to help them see each other.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and when you go for counseling, that's what it should be. It's not should be judgmental that you shouldn't do it this way, you shouldn't do it. The couple should be able to have a discussion. And
Yes.
sometimes when you're, let's say you're a couple or family and you have a lot of kids, it's really important as a couple to sit down and talk and communicate.
Yes. I agree.
To talk about things. And that's different than a date. When you have
Yeah.
a date, you enjoy each other, you love on each other and stuff. Don't talk about problems. But sometimes couples need to have a separate time
Yeah.
where they check in, where they talk about finances, talk about the different kids and all that. That's
Yeah.
separate than a date.
Yes. I agree. And don't confuse it. Don't bring that to the date. Don't.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
you are going to crush that momentum and feeling.
Yes.
And you may not be invited to be on a date again. Right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, Dr. April, is that if someone's interested in learning more, how do they reach out to you? I have your website up. Can they?
Yes, yes. So one of the websites that you have on is Bringing Intimacy Back. It's my podcast. You're definitely able to check me out there. And then another just easy way to check me out, it's my full name's Dr. April Brown. If you look that up, www.draprilbrown.com, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. And they connect to you on LinkedIn as well, right?
Yes, on LinkedIn. Yes, yes. And I'm on all social media platforms.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. And then I'll of course tag you on this episode and then make sure everybody gets your links and what have you. This was wonderful. It was oh, I do have your other website. I'll do that. I'll drop that in the comments. This was wonderful, Dr. April.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Yes, yes. And for all those people that are out there, just go and as an entrepreneur, it's great that you've got your business and you're working hard, but also spend some time connecting with your loved ones.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Because a lot of relationships really get destroyed when entrepreneurs are very, very focused. And a lot of bad habits happen too.
Right.
A lot of bad habits that you don't need to start or continue. And once you recognize that some things may be not the same, it's time to take action. It's time to do something, you know?
Yes,
Don't pretend it's not there because it won't go away.
exactly.
That's not how life works.
Yes,
right?
yes. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Brown.
All right then. Bye.
Take care. Hey, thanks you for joining me today on the Stand Out and Grow podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. I did, as we talked a little bit about intimacy and sex and how entrepreneurship is very difficult. And if you're too focused, you can neglect things in your life that benefit you, that are actually beneficial, because you do want to have good mental health. You do want to have good physical health, and you want to have a good relationship health in association to that. So until next time, you got that.